Hey everybody. So I just talked about Stanley Cup contenders. Now I'm going to talk about teams that might end up being disappointing this year. But before we get to that, I just want to say if you're not yet a subscriber to this channel, please hit that subscribe button. As long as you're a fan of hockey and a fan of the NHL, there are videos here that you will enjoy. So hit that subscribe button and follow this channel, please. Now, every year there are a bunch of teams that made the playoffs the year before that miss, and there are a bunch of teams that didn't make the playoffs the year before that end up making it. I think last year it was like eight or something. 8 teams last year made the playoffs that didn't make it the year before for the 2017 playoffs. So there's huge turnover in the NHL as far as who's a playoff team and who isn't, and there are a lot of surprises come the end of the season. Every year it's the same thing. So some of you might not be happy that your team's on here. Some of you might not think that your team has any chance of missing the playoffs, but it happens every year. There are teams that we think are guaranteed playoff teams and they end up missing. So these are 5 teams that made the playoffs last year that I think are in real danger of missing the playoffs this year. And I'm not saying that they're guaranteed to miss. I just think that it's certainly possible that they miss the playoffs this year. And this is only 5. The number is usually higher than that. So normally even more teams than what I'm about to say end up missing the playoffs after making it the year before. So we'll have to see who else ends up having a very disappointing season and ends up missing the playoffs. So these are the 5 teams that I am worried about. First being Columbus. Columbus, I look at their roster and I really wonder where are the goals going to come from. They obviously have a very talented defense. They have a very good goaltender. Where is the offense going to come from with this team? Are they going to completely rely on their first line for all their offense? What if one of those players gets hurt? Then they're in big trouble. Artemi Panarin, they might even trade him. He's their best offensive player. If they trade him, then really where is the offense going to come from? I mean, John Tortorella has been there for, he had a full year last year. His whole shtick is probably going to start to wear off this year. If the team starts to tune him out or, stop positively responding to his coaching style, which always happens. Tortorella is a very good coach, but his shelf life is very short with a team. This could be the year that it blows up between him and his players. Offense, I think, is going to be the main issue with Columbus, and I think that they're in a very tight and very difficult Metropolitan Division. I think there's a real chance that Columbus misses the playoffs this season. Sticking in the Metropolitan, New Jersey. The New Jersey Devils surprised everyone in making the playoffs last year. I had them being a last place team. They ended up sneaking into a wild card spot. They greatly overachieved last season. They played much better than anyone expected them to, and probably much better than what they normally would. They had a very, very good year last year. This offseason, they really didn't do anything to improve the team. They lost John Moore off their defense. They lost Patrick Maroon and Michael Grabner, who were trade deadline additions. Those aren't big losses. Moore is absolutely a loss for this team on defense. And they really they haven't brought anyone in to improve things or to make the team any better. I think they had a very good year last year, but greatly overachieved. I don't think they're going to do that 2 years in a row. And I think New Jersey comes back down to earth this season. And even with Taylor Hall, and even if Taylor Hall has another tremendous year like he did last year, I still see New Jersey being in severe danger of missing the playoffs. When you look at their roster compared to other teams in the Metro, I just don't think they're as good as some other teams there. And I think that this year the Metro only puts 4 teams in the playoffs. I think the years of them putting 5 teams in the playoffs are over. I think you have 4 legitimate playoff teams in the Atlantic with Florida now. I think Florida absolutely should be a playoff team. So that's going to steal a playoff spot out of the Metro, and it's going to be 4-4 instead of 5-3. And I think New Jersey misses the playoffs this year. Heading out west now, Colorado. Colorado is another team that no one expected to make the playoffs last year. They were abysmal 2 seasons ago, and then last season they really had an incredible year. But once again, they're a team that overachieved last year. I think they come back down to earth this year, and they're in severe danger of missing the playoffs, much like New Jersey. And in the division they play in has a lot to do with that. When you look at the Central Division, I mean, there's no awful team in the Central. Chicago is the worst team in that division, or was last year, and might be again this year. And they've got, Patrick Kane, Jonathan Taves, Duncan Keith, Brent Seabrook. They've got some really good players, and they're a team that only a few years ago were a Stanley Cup team. Now they're last in the division. The Central Division, much like the Metro, is very, very close and very, very difficult. And I think Colorado, with the emergence of St. Louis, as the incredible offseason they had, adding all these high-end pieces, I think Colorado ends up getting pushed out of a playoff spot. You also have to wonder about Dallas. Dallas is a team that on paper should probably be a playoff team, but that division is so difficult, it's going to be tough to get a playoff spot in that division. Next up is Anaheim. Anaheim, they are a team that I firmly believe will not make the playoffs next year. They're a team that's getting older. They're a team that is relying on aging stars too much. Corey Perry at this point, I've said this many times, is the most overrated player in the league at this point. He hasn't even hit 20 goals in any of the last 2 seasons. His 30-goal days are long gone. Ryan Getzlaf's getting up there in age and has injury problems. Ryan Kessler has a lot of injury issues. Anaheim, they really haven't done much of anything this offseason. Certainly no major moves to make their team a lot better. I really think Anaheim's cup window is closed, and they're not going to make the playoffs this year. And lastly, Vegas. Vegas mostly just because I have no idea what to expect from them this season. They shocked everybody with what they did last year. No one saw that coming. That's never happened before. Are they going to be able to repeat that success? Are they really that good of a team? Or was last year just some magical run that they went on and some incredible first season that they had, but that's not really how good they are as a team. They lost a lot of pieces this offseason. James Neal, David Perron, Lucas Spiza on the back end. There's a lot of questions there. I think that they're probably going to be a playoff team again. I don't think that they win the division. I don't think they go anywhere near the Stanley Cup again. They definitely could be a playoff team, but they also might miss. Especially if only 3 teams come out of the Pacific. If the Central is good enough to where they get 5 teams into the playoffs and the Pacific only gets 3, then where does Vegas fit in the playoff picture? You've got San Jose, who is almost certainly a playoff team. I'm thinking LA is going to be a playoff team. And then Calgary has had a big offseason and made a lot of changes. It could come down to Calgary, Vegas, and Anaheim all fighting for one playoff spot. Who gets in? We have no idea. So, I think that there are a lot of questions about all of these teams this year. They may seem like playoff teams now, especially Columbus, Vegas, Anaheim. Those are teams that a lot of people think of as playoff teams with the rosters that they have now. But year in and year out, there are always surprises, and there are always teams that miss the playoffs that you thought, wow, I thought for sure they'd be a playoff team. And there are always teams that you thought, no way they're making the playoffs, and they end up getting in somehow. So these are just 5 teams. There'll probably be more than that made the playoffs last year that miss it this year. But these are 5 teams that I think are in real danger of missing the playoffs after making them last season. So we'll just have to wait and see how the season progresses and how things turn out. But those are just my picks for 5 that I think really are in trouble. So thank you for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. Check out offthewallhockey.com. All those links are in the description below. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.